This video is recorded to help my students to understand how to use file input and file output. Also review the function that call by reference. The project we wanted to finish will solve the following problem. Suppose that an instructor stores one exam score in one file. The instructor would like to have a program that reads the scores in a file, then outputs the statistics of the exam scores to another file. The program should satisfy the following conditions. First, the user is able to specify the input and output file names. If the program fails to open the input-output file, prompt the error message and exit the program. Also, we assume that all scores stored in the input file are in between 0 and 100. They are integers, include 0 and 100. Second, the output file must contain the following information. First, the number of scores. Second, the highest score. Third, the lowest score. Fourth, the average score. Fifth, the number of A's, B's, C's, D's, and U's. As we mentioned before, to solve a problem, the first step is to understand the question. As you understand the question, then you need to design the solution. After designing the solution, then you will carry out the design. So for the computer science, carry out the design is the coding. So our first step, understand the question. We understand what we need to do. We need to write a project. We'll be able to read input file which contains all the scores. Then we'll be able to output the statistics of those scores to our output file. And those statistic data include the number of scores, the highest score, the lowest score, the average score, and the number of A's, B's, C's, D's, and U's. Okay? After we understand the requirement for this project, then we begin to design this project. Well, since this is a small project, we can design the project just simply write down shortcode under the project structure. We will code from there. So let's see. First, we should include IO stream. We always do that, and we include F stream because this time we will use file input and file output using namespace std. So first, let me write down the main function. What the task we need to finish. Of course, first we need to declare variables and initialize them variables if it's necessary. Then we need to ask user to enter the input file name and get the user's input. Okay. Then we will open input file to read. If open input file fails, print out error message and exit the program. If opens successfully, then what we will do? As long as there is more data to read in input file, we will do the following thing. First, read one score from the input file. Then based on that one score, update highest score, lowest score, and total score. Okay. Then we will update the number the number of A's, B's, C's, D's, and the U's. Okay. After do all of those, then we end the while loop. Now, after we finish this, finish the input, read through the input file, and we keep track the number of A's, B's, C's, D's, U's, update the highest score, lowest score, and the total score. We also need to update the total number of scores. Okay, we need to have those updated. Okay, then we ask user to enter the output file name and get the user's input, and we open output file to write. If open output file fails, print out error message and exit the program. Well, before this, we maybe want to close the file first. Close the input file. Okay. So exit the program. Now, if the file opens successfully, then we write all statistics data to output file. Then we close the output file, then exit the program. We know this is return 0. Okay? So this is our design. Let us double check one more time. We first declare variables and initialize variables, then ask a user to enter the input file name and get a user's input. So you know the input file's name. Then we open this input file to read. If open input file to read fails, print out error message and exit the program. If not fail, then we program continue, execution continue. Well, there is more data to read in input file. Do the following thing. Read one score from the input file, update the highest score, lowest score, and the total score. Update the number of A's, B's, C's, D's, and U's. Then update the total number of scores. Then we end this while loop. After the while loop finish, we close the input file, then ask a user to enter the output file name and get a user's input. Then we open output file to write. If open output file fails, print out error message and exit the program. If not fail, we write all stats data to the output file. Then we close the output file. Finally, we exit the program. It seems like our plan for this, our solution is good. Okay, let's start code. So declare variables. Now, what variable you need? From here, you know you first need to have an integer score. You need to have a input file stream, which is fin. Then you will have the output file stream. You can call fout if you wish to. Then you will have a file name, input file name. This is an array of charts. Now, array, we will study array in next chapter. But so far, you just know this array can hold a collection of a sequence of charts. Characters. So, because the file name is a sequence of characters. Okay? Then we will have fin, fout, I need to have integer score. This will one score read from the input file. Then you will have integer highest score, lowest score, and total score. Now, those three variables, we might need to initialize them. Why? For example, how do I update highest score? If the user read the program read one more score from the input file, then this new read score should compare with existing highest score. If this new score is higher, then the highest score need to be updated to this newly read score. So how about when I read the first score? You can say the first score is the highest score if you read the first score. But there is another way to deal with this. I can initialize the highest score become -1. So no matter what is your first score, it will always be greater than -1 because your score is between 0 and 100. In that case, your newly read score will be greater than existing highest score, then your newly read score will be the new highest score. So same idea, we initialize the lowest score to be 101. Then your first score will be automatically be the lowest score. Why? Because your first score, which is between 0 and 100, when it compare to existing lowest score, which is 101, will always smaller. Then your first score will become the lowest score. Then the total score, of course, initialized to be 0. Then we have the highest score, lowest score, total score. Now we need to say integer number of A's, number of B's, number of C's, and the number of D's, and the number of U's. Then we will have number of score, total number of scores. Okay, we did those. Right, there may be other variables we need to use, but we can add in as the project goes. Now all those number of A's, number of B's, we need to initialize them to be 0 at the beginning. The number of D's is 0, number of U's is 0, and number of scores at the beginning is also 0. Then I ask a user to enter the input file name to get the user's input. So I say cout, enter the file name, enter the input file name. Then we see input file. Okay. Now then I open input file to read. Then I say fin dot open input file. Okay. Now if open input file fails, if fin dot fails, then I will print out the error message, cout cannot open file. Then I print out this file name, input file name to read, exit program. Then program exit 1. Okay, this open file to read fails. Then I exited the program. Now, if I don't exit, as long as there are more sense to read? Well, then we will say F in read score. Now this will read a score, then will return you true or false. If it's still read successfully, return you true. Unsuccessfully, return you false. So I will read a score. I already finished this. Read one score from the input file. Let me put this comment here. I read one score from the input file. Then I need to update the highest score, lowest score, and the total score. Let us forget about how to do this. I just say, suppose I write a function after the highest score, lowest score, and the total score. Then this function, I give him the existing highest score, and the existing lowest score, and the existing total score. Then he will update the highest score, lowest score, and the total score for me. Now, in this case, you should know this function will update the highest score, lowest score, and the total score. In this case, this function has to be called by reference. So we declare the function is here, void update highest score, lowest score, total score. Then you give me an integer high score. Now, need to be passed by reference. So I put this notation there. Integer lowest score and integer total score. If the student not familiar with pass by reference, please read the corresponding section in textbook. Basically, pass by reference is the actual parameter and the formal parameter. They will refer to the same memory cell, which means whatever you change for the formal parameter, the actual parameter will change accordingly. So, in this case, when I call the function, if it's called by reference, I'll really be able to change the highest score, lowest score, and the total score if inside of this function the code changes the highest score, lowest score, and the total score. Another thing you need to pay attention, I happen to use the same name for the actual parameter. Those are actual parameters and the formal parameter, but you really don't have to do so. Okay, the name of actual parameter and the formal parameter don't need a match. Now, for example, here I will write another function called update the grades. Then I need to have a number of A's, number of B's, number of C's, and the number of D's, number of U's, then update this with score. Oh, I missed something here. Let me put a score here because you have to give him a score. So he can, based on this score and the old highest score, lowest score, and the total score, and based on this score to update all of them. Okay? So I need to have 4 arguments. Okay, then I need to update the total number of scores. Total number of scores, you just say total score, number of scores plus. Okay, now I have 2 functions here. Now this function not declared yet, so I need to declare another function. The post condition for this update the highest score, lowest score, and the total score are updated based on given score. Okay. Now I need another function, void update grades. Integer, again I need a pass by reference. For example, this time I just call the number of A's, integer number of B's, say I intended to use different name from this actual parameter because it doesn't matter what name you use, but we want to use the name readable. So integer number of these and integer number of use, then finally integer score. Now, then this function will the number of each grade as the numbers of each grade have been maybe the proper English is the number of each grade has been updated based on the given score. Now, what does this function do? For example, if your given score is 95, then the number of A's will be increased by 1. The rest number of grades will not change. Okay? If your given score is 85, then the number of B's will be increased by 1. The rest of the scores, number of scores will not be changed. Since we really want those parameters, actual parameter value change, that's why we must pass by reference. Again, when you pass by reference, what happens? The number of A's, which is associated with the memory, this is the actual parameter, and the NA's, which also associated with the memory, this is the formal parameter. Now, if you pass by reference, the actual parameter and the formal parameter, they're associated with the same memory. That's why if you change NA's in this function update grades, then the number of A's, which is the actual parameter, will be changed to the same value because those two associated with the same memory. That's the power of call by reference. Okay, after we got these two function declares, we did not implement these two function yet. It's okay. We just say leave this like this now, because we just assume these two functions will do their job. Once you call the function, the highest score, lowest score, total score will be updated based on the given score. The number of A's, number of B's, number of C's, number of D's, number of U's will be updated based on the given score. Okay? Now, then I close the file. Then I close the file for the input file. Then in fin.close. Okay? Now, we begin to ask the user to enter the output file name. So if I enter the output file name as a cout, enter the output file name, then cin out file, then the file. Then I want to open output file for write. So fout.open out file. Then if it fails, so we say if fout.fail. Then print out the error message, cannot open file, then give out file name to write. Program exists. Then exit 1. Okay. Now, if not exit, then you need to begin to write all data to the output file. So we can say fout, I write the data, the total number of scores is how many scores you have. Then you say number of scores, right? then have a new line. So this F out is the output stream, just like C out, but the F out is the output stream connected to the output file, and he will print out whatever string here if you do this to the output file. Okay, this just like act like C out, but C out print out. If you change this to C out, everything will print out to the screen. Then I will print out F out. The highest score is highest score. Then the lowest score is the print out the lowest score. Then I say the average score is, now I want to print out average score. The average score, I can do the following calculation. 1.0 multiply the total score divided by the number of scores, right? Then the average score. Then I want to print out the number of A's. You can just say A's, or you say the number of A's. A's. Then you will just print out the number of A's. If you wish, you can copy and paste it, just change it accordingly. So I copy B's, C's, D's, U's. Okay? So I change A's to B's, change A's to C's, D's, and U's. Now here change it accordingly. B's, C's, D's, U's. Okay. Then I close the output file, fout.close. Then I will exit the program, return 0 to indicate the end of the main function. That's the end of the program. Okay, so it seems like we finished the main function. Now there are only two functions we need to finish. One is update the highest score, lowest score, and total score based on the given score. Another is update the grade, number of A's, number of B's, number of C's, and the number of D's, number of U's by the given score. Okay, so let's copy this thing head of the program, function we need to implement, then paste it here. Then I begin implement this function. Now, how to update highest score? Well, if the given score is greater than existing highest score, then the highest score equal the given score. How to update lowest score? If the given score is less than lowest score, then lowest score will equal given score. Then how to update the total score? Total score plus equal score. So that's what this function do. Okay. Now again, we can do the second one by copy the function head. Go down to this place. Now, how to update the number of A's, B's, D's, and U's? Well, we can say if score greater than or equal to 90, the number of A's plus plus. Else, if score is greater than or equal to 80, then the number of B's plus plus. Else, if score is greater than or equal to 70, then the number of C's plus plus. Else, if score is greater than or equal to 60, then the number of D's plus plus. else if score is greater than equal to, no more else, right? I have A, B, C, D. So the rest case is U. So else number of U's plus. Okay? In order to test the program, we have to create an input file. So let's go to the Finder, go to the application. We open the text editor. After you open text editor, you first make sure I prefer the new file will be saved as a plain text. Make sure this is checked. We don't want to save as rich text, plain text. Okay? Then it automatically add a .txt extension to the plain text. So you remember yours is .txt. You can uncheck this if you wish. You don't want it is .txt. Okay? Now, then we type some scores. For example, I type 90, 100, 80, 60, 70. Okay? Then let's save it. Now, save as scores if you want to .data. Okay? Let's save it to the documents first, or you want to save to the desktop, whatever. Desktop first. Let's save it. Now, your file is here. Now, if you run the program might not work. For example, if you run using the file name scores.data, he will say, cannot open scores.data to read exit program, because your project Xcode cannot find where is the file. Now, actually, Xcode will read the file at this location. If you go to Xcode preference, here is the driver data. You click on this arrow, then you will see Xcode driver data. You find your project, which is Hyper.Lab. Then you find the build. Then you find the products, debug. Now you see Hyper.Lab is here. This is the place you suppose put your input file. So let's drag this score data to here. Okay. Now let's run the program. Close here. Then run the project again. Success. Input file name scores.data. Now it can read and ask you into the output file name. Suppose we say result.txt. You can call it txt. Okay. So then the program run. Now let us check if go to the Finder. You say you have a result.txt here. If you open it, it will say the total number of score is 5, the highest score is 100, lowest score is 60, the average score is 80, the number of A's is 2. The reason because you have 90 and 100 are both A's, and B is 1, you have 180, C is 1, you have 170, D is 1, you have 160. It seems like it work very well. Okay? If you have any questions, please give me an email.